Hey guys, what's up? So in this video, I'm actually trying to answer a question about whether or not Django is dead or is it dying. As a lot of you guys know that, I've been a fan of Django for quite some time. Like Django, for me, it gets the job done, and I'm all about trying to get the job done. I don't want to, I basically don't want to have to, make my life more difficult, even though it might not be the coolest or newest technology. But with Django, man, there's a lot of things. So, for instance, like if we look at like jobs and things like that, I don't think that Django jobs are as prevalent as they weren't once were. I mean, so that to me is concerning a bit because, clearly everybody wants to be employed when they start using a new technology. So, one of the things that the reasons why I used Django actually was that when I was creating hipster code back in June of last year, or it might have been May or something like that. Basically, I worked on the site for like a month and a half, and I was in a hurry to try to release the product and everything. So it's not like an impressive site or anything like that. It's using basic Bootstrap. It's got quiz and things like that. 3D models, look at that. It's interesting. So the actual site is using Django Bootstrap. So it's using Django Bootstrap, Nginx, Apache 2 as actual backend web servers. And then it's also using React and Redux for the quizzes. So if you end up taking these quizzes, which you have to be logged in order to do it. Let me just do that real quick. And it's making me pay. Okay. All right. Well, I was going to demonstrate, but I have to actually log in as my own account and not like another test account that I have where it says that I have to pay in order to do that. But clearly there's a lot, I mean, there's a decent amount going on with this website, right? So you have these news articles and things like that. I have somebody that writes for me. Some of my UI definitely needs to be worked on. I just don't have time right now. And then you have like your actual pricing model here. So if you actually go and you purchase something, like there's complexity there, which usually means you have to have at least HTTPS. And then you end up authentication, authorization, things like that. So one of the things that pisses me off a lot is like a lot of the ES6 and Node.js fans are like, oh, but Node is the best, and jQuery is a piece of shit, and Django and Python that's not the answer. But when it came time last year, not even a year ago, where I had to get something done because I didn't want to fuck around with it for a long time, especially because if I don't know, man, like a lot of projects don't end up working. They don't make any money, and that's just a fact of life. So I've known that from my experience of trying to build all these different products and everything, that most of my ideas don't make any money. They don't ever pan out. Like most of the time actually is I lose interest like halfway through and I don't see it through. So that's another reason why you want to get something out the door quickly, so you can kind of discover whether or not you feel like this thing is going to be successful or not. And get that feedback as soon as possible. That way, you're not wasting more time than you need to. So for all those reasons, man, I use Django. I was looking at Node at the time. I was looking at .NET Core. I was looking at just simple MVC.NET. I looked at a lot of different prices. Like I was looking at Azure to see whether or not that would be something where I'd want to host. And I looked at AWS, but I ended up choosing Linode as my web server. So it's a virtual private host, and that means that I'm guaranteed a set amount of assets and everything. It's pretty cheap. I can run everything on a $20 a month Linode account. So they're actually great, I think. And in addition to that, so like you need to deal with authentication, authorization. If you guys have ever seen Passport.js, man, this, number one, like it just irks me, this fucking white font on a black background. I can't stand it. It's terrible. But then the documentation, you're kind of left hanging, man. Like you could go through this and monkey around and play with it if you want, but for what Django provided me with Pi Social Auth and being able to hook into like a bunch of different logins, so I can all this works. I mean, whether it's Google, Facebook, or Twitter. For me, it just worked a lot easier on Django and Pi Social Auth than it did using Node.js, because I did try to go that Express.js route and then use Passport, and it just, to me, it was somewhat of a CF. So once again, what am I trying to say? Basically, I'm trying to say that I hope Django is not dead. I don't think it's dead. I think it gets the job done better than most of the Node.js flavor of the week frameworks that are out there, including Express. And I also think that if people want to criticize somebody that uses PHP Laravel, or if they're using Django or even Rails or any of those things that have been around the block for a time or two now, then if they don't have their own stacks with their own problems that we're trying to solve and that we've solved with these tools and everything, then they're just a jackass. They really are, because they don't know what they're talking about. And that's kind of that inexperience that I was telling you about with a lot of developers that really shines through on some of the more junior and beginner level programmers. Once again, run your own stack, set up your own Postgres server and firewalls and rules and your SSL and you know, you're talking about like certificates and then credit card integration and things like that. And once you feel comfortable enough doing that with like MongoDB, like maybe you feel like Meteor is the answer or something, but I personally don't. I've looked at all those different stacks, and I choose Django because it gets the job done. Now, I understand that it's not as popular as it once was, so I'm curious to see where it's going to be in the future. That would suck if it got, you know, disbanded completely. But Django just recently came out with its newest version, just a few days ago actually. And which one is it? It is Django 1.11. So you can see one of the problems with Django. Well, it's not really a problem, but another thing about Django, which is actually good, believe it or not, is that, you know, the Python 2 series to Python 3, it's been about 10 years now for people to try to adopt Python 3. And technology, when you have entire stacks that are built on older technology, you have companies that are still working with older technology and don't want to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars bringing in developers to upgrade their systems and things like that. You know, they're using older versions of Python. They're using Python 2.7, sometimes out of laziness, sometimes out of necessity, because some of the libraries never got ported over to Python 3. And maybe they're relying upon those libraries. So there's a lot of different reasons why a Django website would still be running Python 2.7. And the Django community is not like this, hey, let's jump on Angular 2 and use TypeScript and rewrite everything that we did. You know, there's not all these backwards incompatible things. And if there are backwards incompatibilities, it's much more well documented, I would say, within the Django community than it ever has been with like React and Redux. And that's including, you know, like if you look at, and that's saying something too, in my opinion, because if you look at some of the communities behind like React Router, just the other day, React Router came out with its 4.0 version with all kinds of breaking changes. And it's just, I don't know, man, there's a different mentality between the older school developers that don't want to have to spend a bunch of time fucking around with their stuff trying to figure out why the latest versions of the project or have completely broken everything that they were using. You know, that we just don't have time. So once again, do I think Django is dead? Hell no, I don't think Django is dead. I think that Django has its purpose. I'm going to continue to use it. I'm actually going to write another tutorial series for it. And I want to actually get in my tutorial series of also integrating it with React, with Redux. That's what I'm using on Hipster Code. Even my blogs and everything. So for, you know, people that are writing for me, and some of the stuff that I've even written myself. This is one of my viewers that actually wrote this article right here, Owen. So if you guys have anything you want to write, let me know. I'll post it, but I'm not paying you for it. Sorry, the website doesn't make any money. But even this stuff is relatively cool. I think that the editing way that I'm doing this, I'm using Quill.js to actually write the blogs and then also be able to display the blogs. So Quill.js, if you've never seen it, is more of a front end, basically like Word, you know, Word for web or whatever. So it should say trusted by Hipster Code here. By the way, Slack, man, I need to do a video on Slack. I actually love that product. So let's see. Yeah, so man, dude, once again, if you're a hipster trendy asshole, then and you think that everybody should be using Node.js or whatever because, you know, Django is old and all that stuff, I will respect your opinion on that as long as you've actually taken the time and the effort to create a full stack website where you have to manage it and it has to work, and you're taking people's credit card information and you're taking people's personal information and things like that. If you trust Meteor and Mongo or Express and Passport and all the other stuff, that's perfectly fine. Once again, I respect those people's opinion, and if they have that opinion of like both using Django and using Node, and they look at my like Hipster Code website, besides the UI layout and things like that, I'm not a UX designer. But they're like, man, this thing's slow as fuck, or it doesn't work, or whatever. I don't know, man. I guess that's a valid criticism, but I don't know. Like I said, man, this was about getting the job done, getting your feet wet as quickly as possible, figure out whether or not your product was going to work or not. And for those reasons, I use Django, and for those reasons also, I feel like Django's not going anywhere. And once again, I will continue to promote it on my channel. I'm going to actually do a lot more tutorials on it, and and integrating it with more future UI sides, maybe Vue.js. I mean, you could use Vue.js and replacement of the Django templating engine, which has recently also supported things like Jinja 2 and everything. So anyway, I think there's a lot to be excited about. Like if you're trying to build a product, especially a content type product, then I think Django definitely fits the bill very well there. I'm also working on a YouTube tool. Eventually, I hope to release that, but right now I don't know when that's going to be. But that is something that I would probably also have on a Django backend, but it's mostly React and Redux that's doing a ton of work there. But anyway, we'll see if it ever gets released. It may not. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe and have a good day. Bye. And just a quick shout out, guys. This video is provided by Dev Mountain Coding Bootcamp. They sponsor my channel. They sponsor my content. They sponsored this video. So make sure you guys give them the time and day. Just check them out if you're interested. They have 12 and 16 week intensive courses. It's in person. It's not online. Some of the people that I've talked to with some of the coding boot camps are like, yeah, I don't really trust the online ones as well as the actual in-person hands-on approach. Because the in-person hands-on approach, you're working with real developers. You're not just having somebody who, recorded a few video sessions like on Pluralsight and telling you, hey, blah, blah, blah. We're going to spend the first, six courses just kind of talking about what we're going to do. With a boot camp like Dev Mountain, you're going to actually be doing a lot more work, a lot more intensive stuff. You're going to be using a lot of the newer technologies, Node.js. You're using a lot of JavaScript, ES6. They're going to be using source control repositories, mainly Git. So you're going to be working within a team environment, which is something that you're also going to need to have experience with when you get your foot into the industry. So make sure you guys check out Dev Mountain Coding Bootcamp if you're interested. There they have, once again, they're based out of Provo, Utah, and Dallas, Texas. So if you guys can travel, they do provide housing opportunities through them, but you have to reach out to them to find out more information there. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Bye.